there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And we welcome a friend back on the show today.
Yeah, we are really pleased today to welcome back a guest who's been on a time or two before, Rand Elliot, who's one of the premier architects in this country. But we're lucky enough to have captured him in Oklahoma City for a number of years, his life basically. He's going to, I've titled this show, What's Up in Elliot's World. There's always a lot up in Elliot's world, and we're going to find out about that today. I think our viewers will find it interesting about what's going on from the architecture side in all the development in Oklahoma City.
Rand brings a lot of acclaim to our city, and we're going to hear out some of the building blocks that have made his firm so successful. Rand Elliot, today's guest on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
One of the reasons why I moved to Rockaway is because it's such a diverse culture and different ethnicities. And my camera has opened some doors to really meet people that I probably wouldn't have gotten to meet without it. I'm Beth Perkins, I'm a professional photographer, and I'm Chickasaw. It came in as like a mini tidal wave. Everything sustainable had just disappeared in one swoop, and I just underestimated this power, and I realized really how little we are in this whole scheme of things and how quickly things can go bad. My community is still rebuilding, and for them to just show up out of the blue and just start clearing out my house was, I'm not one that likes to ask for help. So for someone to come and do that for me it was really touching and humbling. I've thought about the history of the Chickasaws and what they went through as far as relocating and losing their homes and having to rebuild and to thrive in the end after all of that is just a true testament to the Chickasaw strength. And I try and draw from that and remember that that's a part of who I am.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As I indicated in the opening segment, we're really pleased to welcome back to the set of The Verdict Rand Elliot, a native Oklahoman. He did his undergraduate work at Oklahoma State University a number of years ago in architecture, where he was an award-winning student. Awards have followed him every place he's been, for good reason, I think you'll agree. He has done a number of projects that have won national acclaim. He's been practicing architecture for 39 years and has won 319 national awards during those 39 years. And this 2004 year that we just finished was particularly good for Rand. He was able to go to Singapore and pick up an award for his Postal Plaza Gallery in Stillwater, which if you haven't seen, you need to. It really has a charm about it that I think you'll find exciting. But we find it exciting to bring him to our set and find out what's going on in his world. Rand, welcome back.
Wow,
Yeah.
Thanks very much. It's a real honor to be here with the two of you.
Let's talk about what projects are on your plate right now. What are you doing?
Well, there's just so many interesting things going on in our community. I mean, Oklahoma City is blossoming in many, many ways. We've just completed the CHK Central Boathouse on the river for UCO, which has been an exciting project. We are working on the project that we're discussing recently about this Flatiron District, which is right in my neighborhood, and we're about to finish a small building, and then the second phase is a larger building, about 70,000 square feet, really at the eastern gateway into downtown. So two very exciting things.
Let's take a look at some of these pictures of the
Great.
Flatiron District.
Happy
I know
to.
you brought some with you here today.
Thank you.
I guess this is an existing building. It didn't look like this, but when you arrived on the scene, but it wasn't a vacant lot.
It's a great point, Mayor, because I've been looking at the small building out my window for 20 years. It was boarded up for 27 years, and we finally decided it was time to do something. And so we have renovated the small building. A wonderful company called Plyco. Carl Hook and Sherry Hayworth are the principals of that firm. They're going to occupy the small building. We've added a third floor, which has a deck that overlooks downtown, which is marvelous. And then the building behind it is 70,000 square feet. It'll be a spec office building that we'll do. But more importantly, this building is the eastern gateway into downtown, which we're very excited to create, frankly.
Yeah,
Let's look at another view.
If you get off 235, you're going to,
This is
on, I guess, the 6th Street.
6th Street, that's
you're going to run
exactly
right by that.
I do it every day.
We all do.
Well, pretty soon there's going to be some orange cones
That's
that Rand's responsible for.
That's right. You're going to be mad at me. This is particularly special because this is the Flatiron District, and for those of you who don't know, the mothership of Flatiron Buildings is in New York at 25th and 5th by Fuller Brush Company, which is a very interesting thing. But it has this knife edge front on it, and it gives its name Flatiron. This is an aerial view that shows the building and how it is confined to the site, showing the small building on the left, if you will, or phase 1 and phase 2 on the right. Be a marvelous deck here that will overlook Bricktown and watching the fireworks.
So the building on the left there, that small triangle on the left, that's what existed currently.
That's currently
what
it.
exists, and then the larger building is what you're going to be adding
That's
to
exactly
the
right.
property. Yeah.
We should all be so lucky. Gentleman by the name of that originally did the building, his name was C.F. Metters, 1924, the
Wow.
original building, and he had a great vision about the neighborhood.
I've noticed in some of your projects there's like a complete master plan. Someone brings you in and you develop a grand scale and scheme. And then in other projects you take on, what might seem to be mundane and small. And I'm guessing the Stillwater Post Office complex wasn't grandiose.
That's right.
by the description that was handed out to architectural firms. What draws you, first of all, what draws you to some of these small projects that might just go right through the outbox of a lot of other firms?
It's a very interesting question because I've had people say, Rand, what are your favorite kinds of projects? And I tell them the ones that appear to have the least potential. and the reality is they have the most potential. It may be strange when I say that I love doing parking structures. They have enormous impact. And one particular moment, a gentleman told me that, what do you think has the most impact? What do you see first and see last when you go and visit someone or some company? It's the parking lot. And so the responsibility of doing that well is just particularly important. So I like the challenging projects, Mayor.
Yeah, but they have the smallest budgets.
Yeah, they do.
So how do you justify that? Because you have employees, you have a big firm, and you have bills to pay too. How do you justify your expertise being used on something that might not seem all that big budget?
It's a great question. Like all companies, you start small, and we started doing small projects. We were lucky early on to get an addition to a house or a restroom or anything that we would do. People would hire us to do something. And so we got to where we could really do small projects well. And it's about doing a project that has a great concept and a great spirit to it. And we find that our clients are more interested in the outcome than they are about the economics. The economics are important. They're a part of making it successful. But the economics we see as really a guideline. It helps you get to the essence of the project.
Yeah. And so tell me about the post office in Stillwater that recently
Just
received some awards.
Marvelous project. Downtown
It's a
Stillwater.
gallery, I guess.
It is. It's called the Postal Plaza Gallery. 1930s building, been added on to in the 50s. Again, very little potential. The things that were there were a gallery where they sorted mail and counted mail, and there were a series of windows up at the top, and those windows were where the security people would overlook them sorting mail and so forth, because there was mail fraud at that time, and of course that was their deterrent of doing that. And so it's a dark black painted tunnel around at the upper level that they looked over into the mail sorting area. So fascinating conditions, and I love those sorts of things.
I also mentioned you do some, project planning. The campus at Chesapeake
Yes.
is your. So when they first approached you at Chesapeake, they couldn't have imagined what exists today. How did that start?
We did the first project for Aubrey in 1988, and early on, I knew that he had ambitions to do big things, and so early on we said, Aubrey, we need to do a master plan. He said, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I know, but let's try to imagine what that might be. And so we opted to do a master plan for him. And that master plan, I have a copy of it today. The early phases of it literally followed our original master plan. It's about predicting the future a little bit. It's about aspirational things. It's about the optimism about the future. And so planning is a very important part of what we do.
The Chesapeake headquarters area has a kind of a campus feel about it.
Yes, it does.
A university dormitory or classroom feel. How did you come up with that?
Well, early on, the notion was that the company was going to grow in segments, that it was going to grow, just like all of the energy business, it grows in segments. You do something, you get enough money to do the next one, you get enough money to do the next one. And early on, that was the approach to doing it. So it became a campus.
Well, you did wonderful things with the parking structures on that campus.
We did. We enjoyed doing those.
And let's tell about the Boathouse District, which again was a master plan that you created.
Mike Knopp and I laugh, and as we describe to each other, we're on the phone once a day to one another about what's going on, and particularly recently with all the water in the river.
For viewers' edification, Mike Knopp is the rowing instructor for Oklahoma City University.
Yeah, he is, and he is the executive director of the Boathouse District, as far as that's concerned. And so my clients and I develop very strong relationships along the way, which I love very much. And so we've been able to be a part of the vision for the Oklahoma City River. It is, the Oklahoma River is a world-class facility. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. We're having Olympic quality events here. Olympic athletes are training at the Devon Boathouse. The CHK Central Boathouse has a music venue in it, which is just incredibly exciting. It's an amazing addition to Oklahoma City. And Mayor, I did not understand the value of the improvements to the river at the time it was being done. And as I've gotten engaged and involved in that, you begin to realize how incredibly important that was as a piece of infrastructure. And then you look back and you think we couldn't have the Boathouse District if we didn't have the river.
Yeah, no, that's right. You obviously, your firm has grown from just you to I don't know how many dozens of people now. When you're going to hire someone who has architectural skills, what are you looking for?
We're looking for young people that can communicate well. We're looking for young people that have good skills, that have aspirations of doing good things, and we feel like we can guide them.
Yeah.
Break. We got to get to a break.
We're going to get to a break. We're visiting with Rand Elliot, and we'll be right back with more on The Verdict.
People have been talking about energy independence for a long time. It's always been popular, but today it's possible.
We have an enormous supply of oil and gas in the United States, much more than we thought just a few years ago.
New technology, massive new discoveries, largely made by Oklahoma companies. It literally changes everything.
And Oklahoma is leading the charge. Go watch this video to see why. Energy independence starts with us.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We are visiting with Rand Elliot. Ken?
Rand, as I do for virtually all of our guests, I went to your website just to kind of see what it looked like and see what I could glean that would help us on the show today. And the first thing that popped up was something that looked like, or was labeled a Chinese puzzle. Right. That, to me, was typical Rand Elliot, a little surprise and kind of out of the box. Tell our viewers about why that is the doorway or gateway to your website.
We have had that particular logo that I developed for 30 plus years, and we felt like we needed a mark that was distinctive. But more importantly than just ink on paper, it was really about a philosophy of how we do business. And the idea, it's called Beyond the 9 Dots, and it's the idea that you connect all 9 dots with 4 lines without lifting the pen. And it's hard to do. And what you have to do is actually go outside the implied restrictions of it. And we like the notion that you look outside of boundaries, what appear to be boundaries.
I know you've brought your what you call your sketchbook.
Yes, sir.
That apparently is a pretty important document to you, or a treasure to you.
It is.
Tell our viewers about your sketchbook.
Absolutely. I've just finished this. This is sketchbook number 37. I started March 19th. I finished May 24th. And my wife and I had this conversation. She says, well, you know, you spend more time in your sketchbook than you do with me. And the truth of the matter is that's probably right in the sense that it's really about how ideas are developed. And for me, the drawings are not pretty. In fact, I call them my ugly drawings. But they are about generating ideas. And that's really what we're about, and the kinds of things that we think drive our projects to make them successful. So it's these funny drawings that ultimately end up being the renovation of City Hall, or the Boathouse District, or any of those kinds of things that might be going on
Somewhere
today.
that would be in one of your sketchbooks.
That's absolutely right, and the sketchbooks reside in the vault downtown, and they are sort of my important treasures, if you will.
Now, I know there's overlap, but to a certain extent, an architect draws something, and then some sort of engineer or construction company takes that and turns it into some functional product. How does that relationship go? And are there any anecdotes about your drawing and the engineer's reaction to how they were going to build it?
We have this wonderful sort of philosophy in the office about, as we talk to our contractor friends, that we say to them, our job is to make your job as hard as we possibly can. And they get a big kick out of that. And the thing that we have found is that people rise to the occasion. And the reality is, regardless of how complicated the project is, and we're not doing it on purpose, it's just that it's unique and it's different. And so it requires great communication with people on the team. And so it makes it an exciting thing. It's truly collaborative. We couldn't do it without them.
What have you learned about dealing with engineers and that side? Because you're on the creative side.
That's right.
And you know, it could be argued that they're on the other side.
The thing I have found, Mayor, is that I can sit with an engineer across the table. In fact, last night we did 2 hours worth of structural engineering discussion. So wonderful, because it's a back and forth. Well, you know, does it have to be that deep? Does it have to be that thick? Does it have to be that heavy? Well, no, maybe. Can it be triangular instead of square? Can it be round instead of rectangular? It's that kind of conversation that goes on, and that's their job, is to help interpret the project.
And are you involved in the materials as well?
Oh, absolutely. That's I've been a material junkie all my life, I guess. We have a wonderful library in the basement of our existing building that's just filled with pieces of metal, and I always laugh about the fact that a piece of metal is liable to lay around for 2 or 3 years, then I'll find a use for it. And so that's been a fun experience.
Well, so what's your favorite materials? Or does it go in phases?
Oh, it's a great question. You have to know my history, but probably plastics. And I would say that because I've been around plastics since I was a young boy, and we built model cars, as we all did. And but I've had a sincere interest in that. It's an incredibly durable product. It's structural today. It's transparent. It's moldable. It's all those kinds of things, and more things of that nature are becoming valuable when it comes to building buildings. It's not all about masonry. It's not all about metal panels. It's not all about, we're really looking to new materials to incorporate in our projects.
How do you balance your creativity with keeping it within a budget, keeping the cost of the project for the owner in mind?
Ken, it's a great question, because we really think of the budget as an integral part of the process. We believe that budgets are intended to help us get to the essence of it. regardless of whether the project budget is small or medium or large, we all have limitations, and we want the limitations. The limitations really do give us an advantage, and so from that standpoint, we like to have that. And it's just a matter of making choices. If the budget is a small budget, then your materials might be more common materials, whether it be masonry or stucco or something like that. If you have a budget that's up from that, it might be some high-tech plastics, it might be a metal panel, and at the top it might be granites and things like that. So you have to identify that niche and that target that you're focusing on at the beginning of the project.
What percentage of your firm's work is in the market, and what firms in the state and outside the state?
We don't advertise or market outside of Oklahoma. Clients take us places. We've worked in London. We've worked in California. We've worked all over the United States. I think I'm licensed in 46 states or something like that. And I love that. We just got a phone call recently to do a parking structure in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's exciting that our work has gotten enough notoriety and so forth that we're being asked to go and work other places, and that's really exciting.
How has technology changed what you do? 39 years ago, I'm sure there was a lot of pencils and paper.
That's right.
And your sketchbook.
Yeah.
But obviously, with the technology advancing, it's got to be different.
It's different, and it's so incredibly exciting because the sketchbook for me is still relevant, and I sit with the fellows in front of the machine, and we literally translate.
Would that be a computer?
Yeah, that's a computer. We translate this from the sketches to a 3D electronic model. Yeah. And it's just very exciting to sit and do that, and the young people today are raised on that, so they do it much quicker than I could. And so it's a wonderful relationship that we develop in doing that kind of thing. It's exciting, and we discover things as it's developed in the electronic world compared to this, but it evolves, is what it does.
Talk about the effect, if any, of the surroundings for a particular project. If you're going to develop a particular building, right, to what attention do you pay to the surrounding area and what those structures look like?
Kent, we've done 300 historic preservation projects, and I've never been in a situation where I wasn't concerned about the neighborhood. You got to be a good neighbor. And doing historic preservation projects is really important because you're really interested in context. What's going on around you? You don't want to build a 20-story building next to a 2-story building, even though Houston does a little bit of that. We don't do that around here. The zoning requirements will not let us do it. So it's about making the whole thing balance is really what it's all about.
You know, Oklahoma City, like most large cities, has a number of oversight boards, citizen oversight boards, design review, planning commissions. What's your experience like going through all that, and not just Oklahoma City, but in other places, the interaction with government and citizen oversight of your work?
It's an interesting thing. I think early on, it was sort of offensive to me because you have people coming in and criticizing your work that have no real understanding of what you're dealing with. On the other hand, we've just been through a situation with the Alliance and Kathy O'Connor and her group, and our work was reviewed by their process, and the project got better. And I think that's the way we like to interpret those situations, is that this is an opportunity to make it better. And so you can either resist or you can work to try to find ways to make it better based on their point of view. And we found that that's a much more positive way to do it, and everybody wins, and that's a good thing. Our job is to make sure that creatively it follows a certain path.
All right. Rand Elliot is our guest today, and we'll be excited about seeing the Flatiron Project come out of the ground here in the next few years.
Yeah, come back again.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here. I drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, Each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children come from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We are wrapping up a show with architect Rand Elliot, who, along with his firm, does an amazing job of raising the architectural standards in this state.
Well, yes, and his work is recognized, as I indicated in the opening, not simply in Oklahoma City or Oklahoma, but worldwide. He was asked to come to Singapore and receive an award for his postal gallery project in Stillwater that we've already talked about. He gets awards, of course, locally, nationally, and internationally, and he just does a wonderful job of keeping the growth, Mr. Mayor, that you're in no small part responsible for, looking good.
Well, and it's another example of the importance of keeping your young people. Rand grew up in Oklahoma City, went to Oklahoma State, obviously with his ambitions, could have been working in any city in the world,
anywhere, sure.
And decided to build this firm here, and Oklahoma City is better for it. We have some website information. His firm, and I'll give it to you verbally, e-a-a.com. It's Elliot Architectural and Associates. And then we have a website. Would love for you to go on our website and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on a future show. It's theverdict.tv. We'll see you next week.